going on, everybody? What's going on? What's good? What's good? Man, sorry I've been away so far. Probably guys are probably like, what the hell happened to this guy? Well, a lot's happened. So nothing crazy, nothing physical or, health wise. It's all been my computer. So as you can see, I'm doing this from my laptop. I have no idea how this sounds. Can't really turn a light on the background because then it all gets washed out. You guys have seen the glare from the screen of my laptop, but long story short, computer had some serious issues. Listen, it's an old computer. It's 8 years old, but it had super high-end parts. And I don't want to change it because I've looked at upgrading parts, and it's going to cost me like over $2,000 to really swap just three pieces out between the memory, the motherboard, and the processor. It's over $2,000. Seriously. So I'm just going to make do with what I have for now. And when I do have the funds available, believe me, we'll be back upstairs, in my office, doing my thing, having a little bit better of a production element compared to what it is now in the dining room. Anyway, so long story short, had some USB issues on one motherboard. So my soundboard wasn't working, couldn't do sound effects, nothing. New motherboard was bought, new older motherboard was bought to match the pieces as a gift. Very generous, very happy. It resolved the USB issue, but now the internet has an issue. So I've been trying to record shows for the past month, and when it goes to the cloud and Talk Studio, it's uploading at like 2 megabytes per second, and it's not working. So I'm going, you'll see this. It's crazy shit. I tried doing 6 shows and I just gave up. Swapped out with a wireless card, hooked up an Ethernet cable, nothing works. So now I have a new issue. Anyway, long story short, I got a laptop. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it'll make do for now. So long story short, let's just go into the show. Missed you guys. Glad I'm back. At least we can do something temporary. And let's just talk about the Yankees. So first order of business. Will the Yankees make move for a third baseman? It doesn't seem like this is going to happen. And I can go into a whole bunch of reasons as to why. But for now, it seems like they're standing pat. And one would have to argue or disagree with their move because they've made so many positive moves in the offseason. Why not go over the edge and just get a third baseman that addresses the infield issue? If you're using putting Jazz at second base, which I'm 100% on board. Jazz is an excellent second baseman. He should be there, not third. Get a third baseman, good defensively, decent bat with some pop, and resolve your infield issue. The outfield is set. The starting pitching is set. The bullpen's looking nice. Yes, I know we've had some injuries over the past couple of days from spring training, but still, things are looking good. Instead, they're relying on DJ LeMahieu, Oswaldo Cabrera, and Oswald Peraza. Now, a part of me says, I can understand why the Yankees want to stand pat, because maybe they want to make a move at the trade deadline, which I feel is wrong. You can make a move and address these. If DJ LeMahieu, Waldo, and Peraza don't pan out, you can address it by the trade deadline. But the problem with that is, just like we saw last year, things become expensive. If too many teams are still fighting for a wild card spot, there's not going to be a lot of teams that have players available, and they're going to fleece the team looking to make that adjustment or that trade. So why put yourself in that situation? That makes no sense to me, right? That's rule number one. I'd rather than build a team right out in the offseason and get ready for this, spring training and the new season. And if you have to address an injury or an issue, you can then address that at the trade deadline if need be. Instead, they're just waiting, which I don't agree with this move. So I don't think they're going to get third baseman. It would surprise me if they did, unless certain teams have some injuries going forward and maybe they need pitching. Maybe they trade Stroman, but now we hear that Clark Schmidt has a cranky back. So what are you going to do? Now you trade Stroman. We don't even sure if Clark Schmidt's going to be ready for the start of the season. Now you're down pitching depth. There's a lot of things going on here, right? A lot of things going on here. Big G's hurt, right? Had issues we heard from the offseason with his elbows, both elbows, was actually irritating him during the World Series, but yet he performed. He played through it. He might not be available. So now people are saying they should trade for a DH. That's a tough one for me. Could Ben Rice play DH? Yes, he could be. Could Everson Pereira play DH? He's got some pop if he's ready, right? All these guys are coming off of injuries, so maybe they're not. The Yankees don't want to rush them. Could they go out and get a DH? They could, but at what price and what would they trade for them, right? The Yankees farm system is kind of thin right now. Could they be holding on to certain pieces? So once again, if they're not doing anything with third baseman now, come the trade deadline, if they want to make an addition, they might need certain players from that farm, which is already thinned out, to make a play, right? I don't see it. I just don't see it happening. I think they're going to once again find somebody internally for Big G. But once again, it's thinning out the depth, right? Because they have no depth on the bench. Who's on the bench for the Yankees? Trent Grisham? He's also hurt. So is it Oswaldo Cabrera or Oswald Peraza? Who's on the bench? Are they using AAA guys to build the bench? Like seriously, like what's happening here? So the bench to me is in dire need. Now, sorry, using the touchpad. You guys could probably hear that. So who's to blame for all this? Is it Hal? Is it Brian Cashman? Is the luxury tax? So let's do this. Let's just read the luxury tax before we go into who's possible to blame. All right. I don't know if you can see this, but let's just start here, right? So the competitive balance tax or luxury tax, right, basically reads each year clubs that exceed a predetermined payroll threshold are subject to a competitive balance tax, which is commonly referred to as a luxury tax. Those who carry payrolls above that threshold are taxed on each dollar above the threshold, with the tax rate increasing based on the number of consecutive years a club has exceeded that threshold. A team's competitive balance tax figure is determined by using the average annual value of each player's contract on the 40-man roster, plus any additional player benefits. Each team's final CBT figure is calculated at the end of each season. Note, if a player signs a contract extension that doesn't kick in until a later season, his AAV for the purposes of the CBT doesn't change until the new contract deal begins. Okay, understood. So here are the base rates of what was going on in the past. So I'm going to run that all. Let's just run it last year's. Last year's threshold for the first level was $237 million. That means any team that spends over that mark is now being taxed, right? So if you're a first-year offender, you're only taxed at 20%, okay, on the overage. If you're a second-year offender, you get a 30% tax on that first-level threshold. The third consecutive year or more, it's a 50% tax on that threshold. Okay, so right now the Yankees, let me just see something. Spot track. I might see Yankees payroll. Yankees payroll. Okay. MLB. Here at Yankees. Why is it not pulling up? Okay, so right now they're saying their projected 2025 payroll is $286 million cash total with a negative space of minus 52 million. I have no idea what that means because I hear people talking that they're over 300 million. Doesn't make any sense. Now, mind you, they're still paying Aaron Hicks and $10 million. So that's still on the payroll. Anthony Rizzo should be on. I don't see his. He should be on there as well, right? Because they didn't pick up his contract. So it's $6 million. So I don't see that. Anyway, let's go back to the tax. So people are saying the Yankees are at $304 million right now. That's where they're at, okay? So the 2025 threshold is $241 million, okay? So they're over that by, let's just see if these numbers are right. 241. minus 3. So that's $62 million right there. Okay, that's over the first threshold. And because they've been 3-time repeat offenders, they're going to get taxed on that at 50%. So 62 million times 50%, that's $31 million. And because they've gone over that threshold by, and here it says, teams that are $60 million or more over that threshold, they get taxed an additional 60%. So you got to take that 60 million, that's 62 million times 60%. That's 37 million, right? So you're looking at 37 plus 31. So you're looking at what, 70 million bucks? 68. Yeah, 68. So close to $70 million. That's the tax they're paying for going over. That's crazy, right? But that's how they set it up. Then there's also additional penalties, right? A club can reset the luxury tax if they fall below that threshold in year 2. So it doesn't happen for year 3 and everything resets. They have a couple more years to go over it again. So it'll reset if you fall below that threshold in, say, after year 2, which is good. But now clubs that are $40 million over or more or above the threshold should have their high selection in the next Rule 4 draft moved back 10 places unless that pick falls in the top 6. In that case, the team will have the second high selection moved back 10 places. So there's all these rules that kind of stop, the Yankees from making moves. So it's not just the luxury tax. It's not just those penalties, but also affects your draft. Just want to give people a brief overview on how that works. So once again, who's to blame? Is it Hal, Brian, or the luxury tax, right? I say it's a little bit of all three. Let me explain why. You don't make all these moves after losing Juan Soto and then just dip your toe in the deep end of the pool and say, yeah, I think I'm good. No one does that. Why spend the money then? It would have been best to just say, we're going to sit quietly. We're not doing Dick this year, and we'll reset it. And then we'll pick up next year between Kyle Tucker and possibly Vladimir Guerrero. There was an article today that I read that Vladdy says he wants to be a Toronto Blue Jay. He'll do everything in his power to be a Blue Jay, but now they're going to have to bid against everybody else to get his services because they couldn't come to a contract agreement. Now, whether that's true or not, that's from Vladdy's mouth. I wouldn't have said that out loud. I'm not sure who his agent is, because now teams go, oh, well, you want to be a Blue Jay, but you're going to use us to try and drive up the price, right? Yeah, we don't think so. So there's going to be limited teams involved in Vlad. I don't think there's going to be a bunch of people. I think maybe Boston might be involved for Vladdy. The Blue Jays will definitely be involved. The Mets, possibly the Yankees. I don't really see the Yankees going after Vlad. I think they should. But why would you go after Vlad when you just move Cody Bellinger from outfield to first base and then pick up Kyle Tucker? Right? Move Jason back to center and have Kyle Tucker on the outfield and left. I don't see it. I'd rather get Kyle Tucker than Vlad. That's just me. Because you can still have Bellinger at first base and then still address the third base issue. I guess if you want to get them both, but is Vlad really a good defensive third baseman? I don't know. So just my opinion. However, or, Hal's got this cap that you should have to spend $300 million to win a World Series. And he's partially right. There are teams like the Kansas City Royals. There's teams like the Baltimore Orioles. There's teams like, who else? The Seattle Mariners. There's teams that have a deeper farm system and can rely on their youth and their farm that have inexpensive, talented players and put them on a field and they perform. The Yankees aren't built that way. If the Yankees are competitive every year, they're never going to get a top 10 draft pick or a top 15 draft pick. That's not going to happen. If they're constantly going to be in, finishing first or second in the league or even third in the league compared to where all the other teams finish with their records, they're going to be picking towards the bottom end of the draft in the first round and each round thereafter. Therefore, the Yankees have to build their team with either free agents or international free agency. That's how they build their team. They'll do their best to draft the best player at that position pick that they get And listen, the Yankees have done well. Austin Wells is up. Aaron Judge came from that system. Miguel Andujar came from that system, although he's nowhere to be seen or heard from right now because he got injured and fell off the boat. Who else? Anthony Volpe came from that system. I mean, Jason Dominguez is from the system. So for people to say that their farm system is crappy, I don't believe it because it's churning out positive contributive players that are playing MLB right now. Clark Schmidt. They had Michael King that they traded to the Padres. To say that, Luis Hill, Rookie of the Year, to say the Yankees aren't producing players or have a shitty farm is not real. It might be thinned out right now, but there's still guys that they're keeping really quiet on that are in the farm that are good players that teams are interested in. They probably don't want to trade them, a la George Lombard Jr., or Ben Haas. I mean, there are players down there that can help this team. So to just make the moves that they made and not finish the project of fielding that truly championship caliber team on the field that they always preach about, to me makes no sense whatsoever. No sense at all. Or could you blame Brian Cashman for making bad moves, possible bad trades, possible bad free agency acquisitions that has basically burdened the payroll? And Hal's now saying, well, why are we paying guys like DJ LeMahieu for a 6-year contract, and he's basically gotten older. He's not as good as what he used to be, which is gave him the higher AAV, and he would have been off the books this year. Done. Right? Why are we handing out contracts to Marcus Stroman? Nothing against Marcus Stroman for $18 million a year because we, blinked on Blake Snell. Now, I wasn't hoping that they would get Blake Snell, but that guy got signed for a 1-year deal with opt-outs, and they went in a different direction and picked up Marcus Stroman, which wasn't a bad deal. It really wasn't. I still think it's a good deal. Marcus Stroman has value. I think other teams are downplaying him because of whatever reason. They want to just basically have the Yankees eat some of that money because they know they're in a tight spot because they basically said they shouldn't have to field that kind of money to put a championship caliber team on the field. So teams aren't stupid. Oh, you need salary relief? Well, yeah, you need to eat a lot of that contract. Why? Even if the Yankees ate $4 million a year and some team got Marcus Stroman for $14 million for this year and possibly next year, how's that a bad deal for any team that needs a number 4, number 5 starter? How's that a bad deal? So I can see why Brian Cashman's like, I'm not going to eat $5, $6, $7, $8, $9 million in contract and just give him away for free. That's ridiculous. Or give you a prospect for him when he has value. It just doesn't make any sense. So there's times I get upset at Brian Cashman because he makes some weird moves, and there's times that he does really brilliant moves like trading for Cody Bellinger, or trading for Juan Soto. I don't understand some of it, right? Or once again, the luxury tax. Either way, the Yankees are in a crappy situation. But they shouldn't, if they're over by the $3 or $4 million they say they are, then they shouldn't let that prevent them from building that team that needs to really make sure you win. For example, let's look at the Dodgers. If you go through history, most teams that win the World Series, they kind of break up the team once they win. They start trading players off. Oh, we got a chip? Good. Let's lower the payroll next year. The Dodgers said, fuck that. We're doubling down. We're tripling down. The Dodgers were plagued by a lot of injuries last year. That it was the Yankees' year to win last year if they played the game right, because the Dodgers were beat to hell. Now the Dodgers said, hey, screw that. Not only are we going to double down, we're going to make sure that our backup players that play, that are our reserve or our bench, are just as good as our starters. Look at their bullpen. They've got 3, 4 potential closers out there that are in their bullpen. Look at their bench. It's got depth. It's got backup pieces that produce. Look at their starting staff. It's a 6-man rotation, and those guys are all filthy. One of them goes down, they can go to a 5-man rotation, but they have depth. They've got so much depth that if something bad happens, yes, I get it. The games have to be played on paper. But the Dodgers said, no, now's our time. We've got a nucleus. We've got a good team. Let's not break it up. Let's add to it and double down. So if we make it to the World Series if everything pans out. We've got good enough players that if something bad happens, we've got a plug and play player ready to go. That is smart. And listen, if Hal says he can't compete with the Dodgers because it's just not feasible, then bro, listen, buy back the shares from your initial investors. I believe Hal's 60% ownership, and he's got private investors that invest in the Yankees. Buy back their 40% or 55%, whatever the hell it is, or 50%, sorry, 45%, and team up with a hedge fund. You're telling me Merrill Lynch, who's all says the same colors as the Yankees, blue and white, don't use them. You don't know anybody that manages a hedge fund that you could be like a Steve Cohen or like the Dodgers and get back in the game? Have the hedge fund buy out the other players. Seriously. This isn't difficult. I know the Yankees are still paying for their stadium. There's a lot of bills they have. I get it. And a corporation has to run in the black. The Yankees will never run from a negative standpoint. There's companies out there, Fortune 100, even Fortune 500 companies that run in the red sometimes and pray that profits increase over years to buy back that negative value. The Yankees don't run at that. They just don't. They don't run it. They'll never really defer a contract, really. They just don't do it. They don't want to have that negative equity or liability on their books. They just don't. It's a different type of business model, and it's their business model. If you look at them, they've never really run in the red. Maybe in the past when they weren't making money, like years ago when George bought them, and then I think CBS bought them, and then George bought them for CBS. I forget how it went, but you get my drift. They're not gonna. That's not how they do their business. But I think if the Yankees really want to be the Yankees of old, they need to buy out these guys that are not letting them. That are just, hey, we need to make money because we're shareholders and we're board of directors and we're the blah 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 blah. Get rid of them. Pick up a hedge fund who goes, hey, are you guys Yankee fans? You want to invest in us? We need to buy those guys out. Boom, get rid of them. Now you have a hedge fund backing you. Now you're back in business. That's just my thoughts. And it might not be that easy, but just my thoughts. So this nonsense of not competing with the Dodgers over payrolls and money and this and that, that's not cool, man. Steve Cohen's willing to go the extra mile for his team because he was a fan. That's his project. I get it. Steve Cohen's worth $22 billion. I get it. He has money. The Guggenheim, company that owns the Dodgers, they're a hedge fund. They've got money. The Toronto Blue Jays, who's owned by like one of the largest cable networks in the company, they've got money. But as you can see, the majority of Major League Baseball teams, they're not spending. They're not spending. And I do believe if the Yankees had a $250, $270 million payroll, they can win a World Series with that. You just have to get the right players. You have to get the right players and not dole out contracts and put these disgusting buyouts at the end, like here's a $6 million buyout, here's a $10 million. No, dude. Here's a $2 million buyout. Or I'll go even further. What if, with the new CBA rules, if a player gets injured, they don't get paid? Now, the players will never go for that. Or maybe they get half their salary. So, for example, if a guy's getting $20 million a year and he has surgery, why doesn't half his salary go back to the team so they can make moves in the offseason or make moves at that point to replace him until he gets back? Right? You're telling me that these players, even if you're making $2 million a year and $1 million goes back to the team for relief to address that you're not there or you'll be out for the year, you can't live off of $1 million if you're making, say, $2 million a year times, say, 5 years or 4 years or whatever your deal is. Like, what's $1 million? Let me see here. So suppose they got a $20,000 a month mortgage times 12, 240 grand a year. Okay. You're telling me, I have no idea what their house costs. I know what a $10,000 mortgage. Listen, a $10,000 a month mortgage is $1 million home, a multi-million-dollar home. Trust me, I've seen what that buys. Okay, you're telling me even if you're making, so even if 240 of your pay goes towards your mortgage, you can't live off of the rest even after it's taxed until you get back into the swing. Like, I'm not saying players should lose their money, but there's going to be some sort of balance that happens between the team and the players. So we're not sitting there going, we can't make a move because of the freaking luxury tax. Right? Because now this guy has to pay $70 million to teams that don't want to spend, that hoard that money. Or they need to change it where, listen, if they don't spend that money that they get from these teams, then half of it goes back to the teams. There's going to be some rule that they come up with, because you can't keep taxing teams to pay for other teams that don't want to spend. And it makes that team not want to make moves. It sounds kind of ridiculous. I'm not really complaining, but there's got to be some sort of agreement that the players union says, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's not touch a player's salaries, but right, if the teams don't spend this money and you get half it back, or they have a set time period to spend it. So the minute the season's over and that money kicks in from MLB, you got a month to spend it, bro. There's no playing around. Make your moves. It'll speed up free agency. It'll speed up a whole bunch of crap and get the winter meetings going. Like, just they need to put things in place. Free agency is for 2 weeks. Done. Trades happen right after that. At free agency, trades open for 2 weeks. Done. That's it. International draft, that final week. You got 5 weeks of the offseason, and then everybody's set. Something needs to be put in place to speed up this process. And forgot the money and the penalties. And for God's sakes, taking away a team's draft picks because they're over the limit, that's bullshit too. Why is a team, you're already paying into a system to help other teams because I guess they can't draw crowds. I don't know. Then why are they there? You're telling me other cities don't want a baseball team? Move them then. Why is it the other team's responsibility to carry that other person, that other team? If the team's not generating enough money, move them. There's got to be more cities that want baseball teams that be happy to go, wow, we finally have something in our town to go do. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm looking at what's going on with MLB and what's going on with just all this nonsense. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I don't think the Yankees are going to make a move. Would I like them to make a move? I would love them to make a move and really shore up the infield. That's going to happen? No idea. No idea. So, just my thoughts. Like I said, wanted to come on. I don't know, like I said, make a move for a DH. Who knows? Who the hell knows? Third base is still a black hole. And for God's sakes, why is Boone putting Jason Dominguez in left? The dude came up as a center fielder. Keep him in center field. Keep him in center field. I mean, why would you make his learning curve even more difficult? I just want to see it. He's got a lot of talent. I believe. And, if it doesn't work, I'll kill his confidence. Let him fuck up in the outfield. And I'll just move him back to center field. And it'll all be fixed. Dude, I've never seen so much crap in my entire life. Like, why is this guy still the manager? Right? I mean, Judge telling people to not cut people. Dude, listen, love you, Judgy. Good dude. But, dude, you're not the GM. You want to be GM, then when Brian Cashman retires, tell how you want to be GM. But stop interfering with if they want to cut a player. This isn't the friendship game. Do you want to win or not? Winners want to win. So I get it. Your boy isn't performing. Don't interfere if the team says, okay, we're going to let this guy go and DFA. You have to do what's best for the team. Seriously? I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know what's going on over there, man. As my grandmother used to say, too many cooks spoil the broth. I mean, come on, dude. Seriously. So, I'm Errol from Sports Geek. Missed you guys. Wish I wasn't away so long. I guess I'll just keep using this laptop. Sorry about the lighting. Sorry about the sound if it sounds bad. I have no idea. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to get the computer fixed, just not now, maybe over the summer, and we'll go from there. All right. But thank you for watching. I'll come back again either over the weekend or if something happens, but at least you know why I was gone, and I'll be back. All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you for watching. Peace. And let's go, Yankees. Baseball's back. It's back. It's back. All right, peace.